Om Shanti. Thank you everyone for joining. It's a very special month, and especially for the last couple of days, we've been invoking that angel within us, creating that powerful atmosphere. So I invite Sister Maureen. Um, I just quickly want to introduce Sister Morni. Sister Morni's name in our Murlis, where Sister Denise says Sister Morni is known for love is not a noun, it is a verb. It is something that you show in your expression. It is something that you not only experience but also show in your expression. It is the kindness you express it. So it is not just a feeling that you sit with it. So that is something that you have heard many times, and that is coming from Sister Morni. And Sister Morni has been in Gyan for a long time. for most of us, we haven't even born, and she has very much imbibed. She served in all continents, mostly around Australia, Asia zones, and presently she is based in Australia. And and I heard, and I was inspired by Morni Ben, by her consistency. And when I heard, I mean, Morni Ben may not know me, but I heard about Morni Ben, about how she is steady in the sense, even if nobody is looking at me, I have to do what I have to do. So that different versions of that practice is what inspired me personally. Whether she was serving in Cambodia from different souls, I have heard about it. And then I said, and that is when I said, like, that is what I want to become. So something that I want to make it personal, irrespective of what people say or don't say. So I'm going to follow through. So without any further ado, I invite Sister Morni, and Sister Morni is going to share us deeper insights about Brahma Baba and her personal experience on the spiritual journey and deeper aspects of love. Welcome, Sister Morni.
Thank you, Brother Harsh. So my sound is okay, first of all?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So very nice to be with all of you, especially during these beautiful silent days. Now it's just lunchtime on the 18th of January, so we just have a few more hours left to enjoy this wonderful silence. But what I thought to do is just give a little introduction and then specifically my relationship with Brahma Baba. So when I was 11, I declared myself an atheist. I told my parents I'm not going to go to church anymore. I'm not going to go to a Catholic school. I don't believe all of this. And so, yeah, as Harsh Bai said, I've always, I think, had a mind of my own. And the main reason for that is because I just didn't believe what was being said, and especially the aspect that God gave sorrow. God gives happiness and God gives sorrow. I could not accept that. So that was probably one of the main things, but also in those days and my particular exposure was very fear-based, and I was looking for love, not a discipline of fear. So as I went into my teens, I became interested in Buddhism because I wanted to be a better person, but I didn't want to have to include God in that. And in fact, maybe I was a little bit arrogant because I thought, well, you know, I can become a better person. I don't need God. It was only in 1977 I came across the Brahma Kumaris by chance, just through someone coming into my office. And I think what struck me in doing the course, well, not just think, I know what really struck me when I did the course. I was listening to a guided meditation. In those days, they were always half an hour. So I was listening to a half-hour guided meditation from Sister Janti. And especially these words, God doesn't see my weaknesses, but gives me the strength to overcome the weaknesses. Because what I realized in trying to change myself is that I need a little bit more power to do that. I had every intention, but I wasn't always able to make the transformation that I had hoped for. But also, I think what was very wonderful in that meditation is I actually experienced whatever that guided commentary, whatever Sister Janti was saying, I experienced it. So even though I didn't believe in a higher power, I was experiencing love and bliss. And I thought, this is not from me. I've never experienced this before. And it said it was coming from this higher source. And I thought, well, something's happening. This is not from me. And that's why I know that experience is everything, because with my intellect, I didn't want to believe in God. I thought, you know, it's also not so fashionable to believe in God. So I wasn't looking for God, but I wanted more of that experience. So I continued with the course, and yeah, here I am today, and it's only got better. So just going on to these experiences, especially in Madhuban, one particular year we had an all-day silence bhatti before Baba came in the evening. And the day before, I had heard, the proof of love is to become equal. And that really struck me because, as Brother was saying, I've been very, very interested in this topic of love for a very long time. And the proof of love is to become equal. I thought, yeah, it's easy to say I love God. It's kind of cheap. In fact, some of the places that come out as loving God the most are not necessarily the places that are the safest on earth. But what does it mean to love God? So the proof of love is to become equal. So that was the focus of my meditation. And we used to meet the Supreme through the medium. And when I met, I was given this blessing. You have made the Father belong to yourself with so much love, just as the Father has made you belong to him with so much love. You have the aim to become equal. There is still a gap, but race ahead and become the example. So I love that blessing for many reasons. One is that even though Baba says he doesn't read our mind, he definitely does. So whatever was uppermost in my mind was what was spoken. And my realization throughout the day was that it's not so hard to love God. However, I need to become very powerful, because it's not that I don't love God, but I get distracted, attracted, I get overwhelmed. Emotions arise because of situations that happen. And at that time, it's not that I don't love Baba, but I can't feel that love because I'm overwhelmed with something else that's going on. And so this has been, my aim and my effort to become equal. And I think this is what sets aside this practice, because it's even maybe a sin, it's blasphemy in some religions to say that you can become equal to God. Maybe we don't feel so easy with that word equal, but we could say like God, Bap Saman. So, but I also do think equal is a good aim, because like, you can be like someone in some things and not in other things. Equal is equal. So it's a little bit full in that sense. And so that has been my aim. And just a few years ago, I was in Madhuban, and it became very clear to me that I hadn't maybe taken it all that seriously, because I think I had said to myself, yeah, it's good to have the aim to become equal, but so not fully believing that it was possible. But in that meditation, I experienced that I'm on the journey. I am becoming equal. I may not be completely there, but I'm definitely on that journey. And I would say for the last 45 years, I haven't tried to be like anyone else. And so definitely I am on the journey. And this experience of Bap Saman carried on for about a week. And the final one was very beautiful, because what came into my mind, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I'm not anything special. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So I really like that feeling, because sometimes also Bap Saman has a little bit of maybe a feeling of ego in it. Oh, equal to God. I mean, how can you even say that? But the feeling that if I can do it, anyone can do it, means that it's open for all of us. And so these are some of the experiences that I've had, but just going back a bit to that experience of Brahma Baba from the beginning. So as I said, I wasn't looking for God, and I definitely wasn't looking for a guru. So when I started the practice, I experienced Shiv Baba, God, and Brahma Baba's picture was there on the wall, and I thought, anyway, I like what I'm experiencing here, and I didn't pay much attention. It was like, oh, whether Brahma Baba has anything to do with it or not, I don't really care. I just want more of this. And so I just set that aside and didn't really think of it. But interestingly, my best experiences in meditation are looking into the eyes of Brahma Baba, because what I experience is that his eyes are so beyond that I can more easily go beyond. And we just had a Muli, I think, I don't know when it was for you, but for us it was just yesterday, that Brahma Baba is the post office. And that's a good description of his role. I like to go to the post office. We don't get our mail delivered here, so we go to the post office. And I like to go to the post office to see what's there. So it's a bit like that. I like to sit in front of that image and be open and see what deliveries come through. So I can experience love from Shiv Baba, from God, most easily through the eyes and the face of Brahma Baba. But I've also realized I can't love Baba as easily through that face. And I was thinking, how come I can feel the love coming this way, but not as easily love Baba through this face? And I realized because that's where I want a direct connection. I don't go through anyone when I go to Shiv Baba. So when I am loving Baba, I am loving Shiv Baba personally and directly. And somehow I don't want Brahma Baba to come in the way of that. It's a very direct and personal relationship. So, as I said, I didn't really pay much attention to Brahma Baba. He was like a portal to reach the Supreme, and I would go straight to the Supreme. But sometimes Brahma Baba would come in my meditation. I'd be focused on God, on the light, on the Supreme, and Brahma Baba would come in my meditation. I'd kind of say, "What are you doing here? I'm with Shiv Baba. What are you doing here?" And at those times, I was often directed, like my thoughts would be directed somewhere for service. And I don't even know why, but I would just follow it. Like one time I spent 22 years in Hong Kong. So one time it was in Hong Kong. And it was as if Brahma Baba came and my whole focus was taken to China. Don't ask me why. But I go with these experiences. And that's what I love about this path and in particular this meditation. Because I did many other meditations before, just over a short time, maybe 2 or 3 years. But I went to India, I went to Bodh Gaya, Dharamsala. I was very intense in my intention to experience something in meditation. But it was through this particular Raj Yoga that the experiences come to me. So although I wasn't attracted to Brahma Baba, something has come with me from Buddhism. I was attracted mostly in Buddhism to the concept of the bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is someone who has attained enlightenment and yet does not go beyond because they want to stay and serve others. And that's the understanding of Brahma Baba, that he has reached what we call the karma teat stage. He has finished all his karmic bondages, and yet he's there in the subtle regions. He hasn't gone and taken another birth. He hasn't merged into the light or any of those things. He's there in the subtle regions. And so I've come to realize that why I can experience Shiv Baba through Brahma Baba is because we need to become subtle if we're going to reach that incorporeal one. And so when I can bring myself to the subtle, and Brahma Baba's there in what we call the subtle regions, very clearly and specifically. So very often I get touchings. Well, not very often, but they mean a lot when I do. And one of the most recent ones was in 2018. I was in Sydney, very clearly, 4 o'clock in the morning. I heard the words, "Go to Taiwan and open a center." When I say heard, it wasn't a voice, it's just something in the mind. Go to Taiwan and open a center. And it happened that Didi Nirmala, who's our regional coordinator, happened to be in Sydney. I met her the next day and I said to her, "I got this touching. Go to Taiwan and open a center. What do you think?" And she was like, "Oh, okay," not really very committed. And definitely there wasn't a feeling of, yes, I'll support you. It was like, yeah, if you think so, try it. And I'm surrendered. I don't have any work. I did have, a little bit of money. And I knew one person in Taiwan, a Cindy lady, who I knew I couldn't stay with, and who doesn't know Chinese, so she wouldn't be much help in that department. But I decided, okay, Didi didn't say no, I'm going. Because I got the touching, so I'm going. So I don't know how, I don't know with what, I don't know anything, but I'm going. So I rang the center in Hong Kong and I spoke to Sister Rohini and I said, I'm going to Taiwan to open a center. And she said to me, oh, that's interesting because there's a sister here and she's from Thailand, not even from Taiwan. There's a sister here and she has offered to support anyone who will go to Taiwan and open a center. So not knowing how much support or anything more, I thought that's a sign. That's encouragement. Then I called another sister I knew in Hong Kong from Taiwan, and I had taken her to Madhuban as a guest. And I called her and I said, I'm going to Taiwan to open a center. And she said, you're the only one who can do it. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I have no idea why she would say that, but that's another confirmation. And then I spoke to Brother Charlie. He was going to the Philippines for a Call of the Time retreat. And he said, interesting, 5 out of the 20 participants are from Taiwan. And they had come through Peter Sengi. So with no center, 5 people from Taiwan were going to be in the Philippines. So there was 3 clear indicators. And I said to that sister from Taiwan, okay, when can you take a week off work? I'll wait for you. And please be there with me for a week. And so she said, okay, in 2 months I can do that. So I waited for her. And meantime, I traveled to South America. People found out I was going to Taiwan to open a center. So people here and there, I also went to Madhuban. So people were giving me money to help start the center in Taiwan. And so I arrived there, and SK, Xiao Kuang, she was there to meet me. I stayed with her for a week. And the Cindy lady had an apartment next door that became available on a monthly rental basis. So with the money that I had been given, I furnished that apartment, and I had a class within 1 week, scrubbed it, cleaned it, furnished it, all in another country with one person just helping me. And we got that center ready. And 35 people came to the first class after 1 week. So I know that if it's a touching, it needs to be followed, it will work. But what has been the greatest experience of being in Taiwan, not speaking the language, I mostly was only serving people through vibrations. I felt so close to the people there, and they felt close to me. There was a very beautiful connection. And I couldn't even give the course, but after 2 years, there was 2 centers supported by local people and many opportunities. But my translator hardly spoke any English, so I don't really know what she said, but it was working. In its own funny way, it was working. And yeah, we had 2 centers, and then COVID came, and so I'm back in Australia, and the center's still sitting there waiting for someone to go back into that center. So hopefully that day will come, and if not me, someone will go there, because I was 90% ready to register, but because of COVID, I couldn't get the papers in. So it was really at that point of just having gathered 30 people who are willing to be our supporters. So it really was quite magical. But what was the most magical thing is I didn't feel I was doing anything. I really felt that Brahma Baba, now this is where it became very interesting, because I've always thought Shiv Baba gives those touchings. But now I feel Shiv Baba is too beyond. Shiv Baba is incorporeal. He is the source. But Brahma Baba is the father of humanity. Brahma Baba's job is to establish the new world. And how could we leave out any country? Taiwan was important. In fact, it has the same population as Australia almost. Australia's 26 million, Taiwan I believe is 24 million with no center. So every corner needs to be served. But I really felt that I was just an instrument. I had no idea how to get things done. And that woman who was providing financial support, it was also like not very clear when it was coming, if it was coming. And so I just lived on a month by month basis, thinking, well, if there's no money next month, then if Diddy doesn't feel it should continue, just fold up. I just went on that basis. And so it's been a wonderful experience of getting closer to Brahma Baba and understanding his part in the creation. Of course, nothing could happen without God. He is the creator and he is the one that gets things done. But it's really Brahma Baba, I feel from my experience. I could be wrong. I mean, I'm only sharing my experience. And I think it's up to each one of us to have our own very personal, very direct experiences. But I would say it hasn't reduced my love for God. Still, Baba is Baba. He's my one and only support. In fact, I love that saying, Ek Bal, Ek Barosa. One strength, one support. That's God. But Brahma Baba is a service companion, but of course much more than that, because being subtle, being beyond, I think he can get many things done. And so I felt, when Baba asked me to go to Taiwan, I felt that he wanted to open a center in Taiwan, and he asked me if I would do it. So I said, yes, Baba, I'll take you to Taiwan. Thank you for asking me. So it was really a feeling of Brahma Baba wanted to go to Taiwan and he asked me to take him. And so I took him and we did what we could do. So a very, very wonderful experience. And yeah, I think, as I said, it hasn't reduced my love for God, but it's helped me to understand for myself these two Babas, because I think it's very confusing sometimes which Baba we're talking about and which Baba does what. But I have a very beautiful relationship with Brahma Baba and a very, very beautiful, intimate relationship with Shiv Baba. Shiv Baba, for me, first and foremost, is my beloved. And what's been a very beautiful experience coming back to love is, after studying love for about 20 years, I mean studying, meaning I'll read poems, I'll practice, I ask people, what is your understanding of love, and then practice what they say, and experiment many different angles. I've looked at love. And after 20 years, 15, 20 years, I was sitting for meditation and I very clearly heard these words, again, words in the mind. I don't love anyone and no one is to love me. And I thought, wow, that's interesting after all these years of studying love, but it felt very, very pure. And so I was meditating, so I went into these experiences. I don't love anyone? What's that mean? No, I can't love anyone. You know, we try to love people and they don't accept it. Is it up to me to love anyone? No. It's up to me to be love. So that was that experience. I need to be love, not give love. Because if I think of giving love, I calculate who's worthy of love, who's not worthy of love, how much I'll give to this one or that one. It's very complicated and not very doable, but I can be love. Like a flower is fragrant. It doesn't give fragrance. It is fragrant. And the other one, no one's to love me. The feeling in that was, I'm spoken for. I belong to God. I need to be very loyal and true in this relationship, which means not attracting anyone to myself, not being special to anyone else. I'm special to God. I belong to God. I'm hidden in His eyes. I'm His. And that kind of purity of a relationship where we don't flirt, we don't try to attract another one's attention. And so this was one of my most beautiful experiences of being, really merged in God's love. So some experiences, how are we going? I think I can just share another particular aspect was this thing of, at one point, I don't know about chakras. I've never studied them, looked into them, don't know anything much about them. But at one time, at one period of time, perhaps my heart chakra was opening, because what I was experiencing when I was sitting for yoga, I felt that my heart was being stretched. In fact, it was almost, maybe I could say almost painful, because it was really like my heart was being stretched open and this love was pouring in. And at that period of time, whenever I had time, whenever I was alone, when I was meditating, I'd say to Baba, okay, we're alone now, let more in. And I'd really feel this intensity of love. So I don't know what it means to open the chakras, but it seems that might have been opening the heart chakra. And so, I have, as Harsha said, I have focused on love, and I hope to keep focusing and experiencing a lot more in this particular area. So anything you would like to ask, or any particular experiences you'd like me to go into more depth on?
It was really beautiful what you're sharing, and there is like you are sharing, Baba does not tell do this, do that, but first he gives an experience and then he say like this is what you have to follow through, right? So we'll never know what love is until we get to experience it. Otherwise, it's all just words or somebody else's fragment of their mind they are sharing, but we'll never know what God's love is. So only when he gives an experience and then you say like, oh, this is unique, I'm going to follow through this one, whatever this thing is. I don't know what it is, but it feels good. So I'm going to follow through that. So that's where a lot of new people who come here have this challenge. Like, I don't know, I can't relate to what your experience is. I have no experience like that. So So you have any suggestion for those people who say like, oh no, I don't have any visions, I don't have this out of body experience, or I don't have this overwhelming feeling of joy, love, or something, right? So, but I personally feel that Baba always gives something, a taster, and then says that, okay, now this is a taste, now follow through. So, any suggestions for those and on that line?
Yeah, I think I do. Baba often used to say to me in the blessings, personal blessings, that I have courage. And when I hear people having amazing experiences, in their life, not necessarily in meditation, but in their life, I usually ask them, have you just done something really courageous? Because I find that often we need to do something courageous in order to get these amazing experiences. So it's like you take one step and God will take 100,000 steps. I think this is one key because, as one of the Mulis, Baba, said, I can't help everyone because it wouldn't work. You can't all become the same. It's a kingdom. All will be number wise. So Baba can't help us unless we help ourselves. So if we take the one step, we can anticipate those 1,000-fold, that 1,000-fold help from God. And like that invitation to go to Taiwan, I went, right? I had that courage with no money, no language, no connections really, to go. And the more I follow with courage, the more I get help. At one point, just another experience, I was in Hong Kong. I was asked to go to Hong Kong for 3 months. And after 16 years, it's a pretty intense place, if you can just imagine living in the heart of Hong Kong. After 16 years, I was like, enough, Baba. Now it's time to go somewhere else. And I really didn't want to be there. And I said, but Daddy Janki said, oh, there's no one else. Please just stay there. And I thought, if I'm going to stay here, I have to be happy. I can't stay here and not be happy. And I really wasn't happy. I really didn't want to be there. So I thought, how am I going to become happy? So Amrit Vela, I thought, okay, I have to think how I'm going to become happy. And then I was thinking, like I went back, have a shower, getting ready for class. How am I going to make myself happy? I can't even imagine how I'm going to do that. Then I sat for that half an hour meditation before the Muli, and I was conducting meditation. In that half an hour, Baba completely rearranged my head. And after that meditation, I was happy to stay. People would say to me, how much longer will you be in Hong Kong? And I'd say, I'll probably die here. And I didn't mind. How Baba can do that? But I had the courage to say, yes, okay, I will stay. I don't know how I'm going to make this work, but I'll do it. And Baba did all the work. I mean, half an hour meditation. What effort did I make? So experience after experience tells me that it has a lot to do with courage. I don't know everything to do with courage, but definitely that will be one thing. So if you want to experience help from God, you have to take the one step. Otherwise, God can't help.
Wow, that is really beautiful. And especially, I always used to think, if you realize that, oh, this is what is beneficial for me, and if you are not liking that, my mantra was always used to be create a taste for it, and then you'll start liking it. And now I'm hearing a new version of it, which is like, have courage. And courage is not just like external worldly action that, oh, you, I mean, of course you have to do what you have to do at the physical level, but mentally have courage to let go of those thoughts and let go of that feelings that you're holding on to, and then have a courage to step into that unknown, and Baba will connect you at that place. And courage goes at a deeper level, especially when we're talking about meditation. You need to have courage to let go of the feelings that you're absorbed in, and
Mm.
Baba will
And
take.
I'll add one more thing is purity. Because, you know, we have these yamas and niyamas, as they say in yoga. We have these disciplines and principles. So they are the basis for the rest of the practice. In other words, I need to adopt the lifestyle. I need to have pure food and not to indulge in any intoxicants and all of that. The more I become pure, it's like Baba says, the needle, when the rust is removed, it will be pulled to the magnet. So I need to follow the disciplines and principles so that I can be pulled to the magnet.
Yeah, and that is a beautiful topic. Coming back to today's theme of being an angel, purity definitely at the physical level, and purity at the thoughts level, which is what to think, what not to think, and purity at the heart level, what to feel, what not to feel, right? And especially for those who have to go into the silence to invoke that ancient memory, right? And then they have to relate. Purity is always a relative term. It is not, if when you say 24 carats or 22 carats, this is related to some original state of it, right? It is relative term. It is not a thing by itself.
Mm.
So it is eternal truth, and with reference to the eternal truth, where you are you to your, are you 90% to comparable to your eternal truth? That is the truth, right? But when we start this journey of purity, when you don't even know what you are, right? What is your eternal truth like? What is your eternal presence feels like? So then trying to catch up and see the gap, and then what to work, what to not to work, it's all like subtle practices, subtle places to work on, right? And I mean, on that context, if you can share some of your thoughts around that part of purity, because I felt the concept of getting touchings, and Baba says too that once you start coming closer to your perfect stage, you can read through the people's thoughts, and then you can see the future as obvious as it is clear in your mind. So what needs to happen? So it is all, I feel like that power of silence, which transcends beyond the awareness of the time itself, the place when I can get into the timeless place, where I can see future, past, present, everything as the same, and I can perceive the future easily because I am beyond the effect of the time itself, right? and and that is where my eternal pure presence is actually, right? And then I can perceive that thought, and then I can clearly say that this is a touching, and this is like some past triggered emotion. Somebody said something, and then it triggered a whole train of thoughts, and I can distinguish these thoughts versus that thoughts, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And we also have seniors, so I wouldn't act on those thoughts without checking with a senior. And, you know, when I speak to Didi, I think she can feel what's behind it. You know, I feel that she looks at me like in a discerning way, you know, but I wouldn't act on something like that without blessings, you know. So I think we're really fortunate to have the seniors to, you know, to also check big things with. But just to say that, you know, the prefix sat, it's a prefix used for purity and truth, satvik, and also, you know, satya. So truth and purity are so closely linked. So what I feel as a practice also of purity is at every moment to do what I feel is right. I might be wrong. It might turn out to be, something else, but I've practiced this for a good many years, and I just feel the more I do what I feel is right, the more the magic happens. Because, it's like, it says in the Gita, that the greatest delusion is that human beings think that they are doing something, where it's the three gunas, sato gun, raj gun, tamo gun. And sato is just to do what is right, not looking for any return. And that is a practice, I think. It's a momentary practice. It's not a state to reach. It's something to practice in my life, to do what I think is truth. And that, really, I think, is a process of coming to know myself also. Because, we are uniquely different. And the more I align with myself, the more I'll come to know that. And the other thing from the Gita is, we hear this expression, the final chapter of the Gita, Nashta Moha Smriti Lapta. And I've always understood that means, conquer of attachment and loving to one. But when I went in word by word into what it really means, it says, I have vanquished, I have finished completely any illusion, delusion. I've finished that. And I have remembered who I am. I have finished all doubts, and I'm seated ready to listen to you. So that too, I think, is very important, that I need to reach that point where I can really listen to Baba. And it's the final chapter, but I thought that's where I need to start. I need to really listen. And since then I've been, I think, hearing Baba more clearly in the Murli, because I really try. It says I'm seated ready to listen. So I really want to, be alert to listen to God. This is God. So let me position myself for that.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And especially when once I start listening to Murli, I was turning on this concept of listening. Listening is more being open and just listen things as it is. And that was a hard thing for me.
Yeah.
Because you always relate to, like, oh, Baba is saying this, oh, it is like this is what Baba is trying to meant in this context, right? So we are trying to relate something within us from whatever Baba is telling. And especially when we are listening in silence, I need to silence all these noises of, again, relating to Baba's words from my recent past, relating to Baba's words to my body consciousness. And that is where this word body consciousness, soul consciousness is so overloaded, I feel. Right? So I need to really understand what actually is telling let go of body consciousness. It's not the senses. I got to use the senses as long as I'm here. And have to use it. I have to be aware of whatever information coming through my senses so that I can act accordingly. But whatever I have experienced through these senses and that memory bank, if whatever is Baba is telling, it is relating to that, that is not Baba is wanting me to relate to, but he's asking me to relate to my eternal self. So now I got to be so subtle enough to distinguish what is that and what is this part of me, and then tune into that. So on that note, if you can elaborate a little bit around that part of silence, and especially you coming from the little bit Buddhist practice, any tool that helped you to discern that subtle components within us, which part of it is body consciousness, which part of me is me, real me, that will helpful.
Mm. Yeah, I think the real me, of course, is the pure me. And so these days of silence, and any time we can have this practice of silence, and for me, mornings, 4 a.m. until after Muli, it's a very sacred time for silence and practice, because that's a great gift to myself, that I have 4 hours every day for myself to, and especially Amrit Vela. I mean, this is the time for me. I don't think I get touchings at any other time. It's really Amrit Vela that is the special time for me. And sometimes it's about service, sometimes it's about, insights, but a lot of the time it's also service. And it makes me kind of excited to live, because I'll think of a particular group of people. So whether it's serving practically, physically, or through the mind, but often it's a particular area. But I really feel guided during Amrit Vela. It's the main time. And long bhattis. We used to have a lot of 2-hour yoga bhattis with drishti. And I find that nowadays, there's not much drishti happening, in a group, and not much silence. Very often people play music. But really, silence and drishti is what I was brought up on. I was brought up on silence and drishti. So it works for me best. It works for me better than anything else. So I guess that's why also Amrit Vela, it's complete silence. And drishti, because I do sit in front of Brahma Baba's picture in Baba's room at that time. So, but even if I'm not sitting there, yeah, even, because I've been in all kinds of situations during COVID. I've, until I settled here, I'm at a retreat center now outside of Melbourne. It's very beautiful, but until I reached here, it was here and there a little bit. So wherever I was, just to really tune in at that time in particular. So I think Amrit Vela is another key to the whole practice. And I would even say that I focus my whole day around Amrit Vela. Whatever I'm doing, I always think, how will that affect my Amrit Vela? Because the way I think, the kind of amount of work I do, what time I go to bed, Amrit Vela to me is the focus. So that's a very important thing.
Beautiful. So it's really nice. And now the power of family comes into picture. The family is Avyakt family, where dadis who did real deep practice on this part, and had an opportunity to be in the presence of the one who became an angel, Brahma Baba, and then they saw his practice, not just at the external level, but took it personally and then imbibed it within themselves, right? And being sustained by those role models around us, it will go long ways. Yeah. So would you like to share some of uh, the personal shifts that happened in your journey on the spiritual path, having the dadis as our role models? And definitely Baba is there. We understand Baba through Murli, and of course Amrit Vela, we use Brahma Baba as a medium. So, but in flesh and bones, we have dadis around. So, if we could share some.
I think, you know, you also, if you're listening to Denise, you hear her speaking a lot about the yagya as something distinct from the organization, the institution. And, you know, like we just saw in those images in that beautiful slideshow, you know, though all those pictures of the yagya, you know, the simplicity. And I don't know if you remember that particular little video of Duddy talking about you know, her joke about tea, and Duddy Nirmala telling about how she got in the pot to wash the pot. You know, when I saw that, I thought, this is what I surrendered my life to. I didn't surrender my life to an institution. I surrendered my life to this innocence, to the purity, to the simplicity, and we saw all of that in the video. You know, Brahma Baba, you know, in his t-shirt and sitting with the quilt over his head, and, you know, everyone's sitting around him, and the joy and the love and the sweetness. So it's not just a matter of remembering it in the past, but keeping it alive. So to what extent am I keeping the yagya feelings alive in the sense of that bhavana? I spent 4 years in India, and I would say what I appreciated most was bhavana. These loving feelings. I mean, they couldn't do enough for me. Like they say, in India, a guest is God. I just couldn't believe the love and care with which I was taken care of, you know, especially the young sisters, you know, they were just beautiful. But am I keeping that yagya feeling alive? And I think that is something for all of us to pay attention to, so that we don't become like an organization, you know, with sometimes if it's two organizations, we need the rules. We need to follow the government rules. Like now, you know, with this COVID, some people vaccinated, some people not vaccinated. Of course, we have to follow the government rules as far as how we function. You know, we have to follow the rules, but we need to love and care and find how to engage and keep in the family those who have chosen not to be vaccinated. And I'm not saying, I'm not making any statement about this, any opinion. I'm just saying that we're a family and we need to look after each other with a lot of care. If you're somebody who doesn't believe in, you know, having the vaccine, at least care about people who are afraid, you know, and, you know, just really loving and caring for each other. And I think a lot of us are being put to the test at this time, whether it's in our Lokik families or our Alokik families. And it's really about keeping the yagya feeling alive. We need to care for each other no matter what, whatever's going on. Yes, we have to follow the whatever the because we have to protect the institution as much as we have to protect the yagya, but also protecting the yagya means to protect the feelings and the love and the unity, and don't let us be divided. So yeah, it's a very tricky path sometimes, but you know, we have a sister here who loves to make chai. That keeps the feeling of the yagya somehow. When people have chai, they just feel there's a feeling behind it, you know. So whatever we can do to generate that. And now, you know, people can't go to Madhaban. So today I gifted someone a shawl. I mean, you know, it's a treasure nowadays. Before you just go to Madhaban and get one, you know, we always got that as a gift. So, you know, just as after so many years, Madhaban still gives the feelings of whatever Brahma Baba started. Brahma Baba gave gifts, and still now with 25,000 people at a time, they still give gifts, still give toli, still give, you know, Borjan to travelers. You know, Brahma Baba started this when there was hardly 300, and now there's thousands, and still the yagya is keeping all of these things alive, and we need to play our part in that. Mm.
Beautiful. So any last words that we'd like to share around Madhuban? Uh,
One of the greatest lessons, okay, was there's so many stories. I don't know which what to share with you, but one of the greatest lessons I would say is I was on the bus with Duddy, a small little bus going down to Ahmedabad, and you know, from my experience of living in Hong Kong in particular, I was saying that it's not just Hong Kong. I shouldn't say that. It's everywhere. It's really hard to trust people completely. Anyone. You know, you feel you're very close to someone and then you hear they said something behind your back. So I asked Duddy G this. I said, Duddy, you know, really from my experience, I have to say I don't think I can trust anyone 100%. She said, why don't you look at it like this? That you can trust most people 95%. And I thought, yeah, that's right. I can trust most people 95%. That's realistic. You know, when it's all or nothing, we can really get into a state. And in fact, I don't want anyone to trust me 100%. I'm not 100% trustworthy. I forget to do something. I might say something I shouldn't say. I don't want anyone to trust me 100% because I'm not perfect. So not to put that on anyone. And then I came back to Hong Kong and I heard that one of the sisters who I was very close to said something negative about me. And I thought, that's okay. That's her 5%. Hope she gives me 5%. It's okay. No problem. Whereas before I would have said, see, you can't trust anyone. So I think that lesson of trust has been one of the greatest lessons I've ever had from Duddy. But yes, so many experiences, so many sweet, sweet experiences because they really are very sweet. And tomorrow you'll hear the Murli of 18th January where Baba's talking about becoming light. And definitely Dadi Prakashmani. When I saw her in the last few years, I couldn't see her different to Baba. I used to get tears coming up of love. Just seeing her, I used to feel she's just like Baba and seeing that light. So yeah, they really have been able to show us the way. And so we're very lucky. And we still have the stories. It's great to share stories about this.
This is a real treat to see you.
Lovely to be with all of you there in San Francisco.
Yeah, so good to see you. Okay, and also to be with all of you and on this special day of stillness and remembering the role that Brahma Baba had in our lives. And so I'm going to sing our 18th of January song. So just sit back and we'll just tune ourselves to Bap Dada. Of January, sweet day of days has come, when all of time is compressed with a single wave of the sun, a time when God and man are one. For on that day I remember how a God and angel became. For on that day he surrendered all for peace. evils of mind he conquered. His thoughts were high and pure, and on that day in January, a crown of victory and light he wore. Is it really clear what Brahma did? Reaping fruits of the tree of life. For what we do now will echo through eternity. Sow the seeds of real peace, not through words, but real deeds, the meaning of the 18th of January. 18th of January. 18th of January, sweet day of days has come. When all of time is compressed with a single wave of the sun. A time when God recreates the image of man. A time when God recreates the image of man. Ooh, 18th of January. 18th of January.